Calidonia. Now that's a barrio, a neighborhood in Panama City that nobody seems to talk about. And Pat and I took a walk there, and we wanted to share with you at least some of the area that we think is a preferred area of Caledonia. But we're going to tell you all about it, and we're also going to add lots of details about the apartment buildings in the area, how much it is to rent, and how much it is to buy these condos. So you might want to take notes if you're looking at property in Panama City and you're considering waterfront, basically waterfront area, which is what we're mostly going to cover. Hi friends, welcome back to Laptop Seniors. Pat and I have been traveling a lot through the winter and shooting a lot of video. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that now and click that bell so you'll be notified when those new videos start to drop. We're also catching up with some of the many comments that you leave. I'm sorry if we've been a little bit late at replying to you. We try to answer all the comments under our videos. So Caledonia actually starts just beyond Parque Urraca, Bella Vista, and it goes west to San Felipe, which includes Casco Viejo, which I'm sure all of you know where that is. So it starts at the waterfront and then it goes up basically to Highway 50 or maybe a little bit beyond. But it's a big area starting at the waterfront, so there's lots of prime land there. But there are better areas, worse areas, and it has a different feel than Bella Vista.
Let's take another walk through Panama City. This time it's on the other side of Parque Urraca, and we'll show you what it looks like, and you'll get a feel for it. We're going to take a walk down to Calle 40, and then we're going to make a right-hand turn, go down another block, and then start coming back. And we're going to bounce through these streets here to give you a feel for what they look like. And we're going to make a left-hand turn, go up a pretty long block. A lot of construction you're going to see in this area. Then we're going to head down to the Supermercado, the Ray grocery store right at the end of the street. You'll see that. We'll make a right-hand turn and start heading down toward Avenida Balboa and the water. We'll go down about a block, make another left-hand turn, heading straight back toward the park, and that'll end it. This will take about 10 minutes.
We are starting our walk at Parque Urraca, and this edges on the west end of Bella Vista, which many of you loved in our guided walking tour of Bella Vista.
That would be the last video that we did that we had up.
Yeah, so right now we're looking across Avenida Balboa and looking towards the waterfront. So on the right, the first buildings that you're going to see are a couple of banks, and there are several that you'll see in this walk. So it is a banking area. The next building with the curvy lines on the front, it's the BAC, I believe, and there's a drive-through right in the front.
Now, one of the things that I kind of want to point out to you, on the last video and the last couple videos actually, one of them was generally if you're coming to Panama City for the very first time, where should you stay? And I pointed out a pretty small area, and that area was basically on the right-hand side with the water to your back, right-hand side of Parque Urraca. Now we're on the left-hand side, and I said if you're going to be on the left-hand side, which is nice that you can see, you'd only want to go down 3-4 streets, which is what we're going to do.
One thing I notice in this part of Avenida Balboa is that it feels like the road is more upon you. And so it's Balboa and then the Cinta Costera lanes is why there's so many lanes of traffic on the left. So this is Calle 42 East, and this is where Caledonia actually begins.
And as we mentioned, it's a really large area. You're in a cab ride and it's you're doing $5, $4 or $5 to go from the park down to Casco Viejo, and given the pricing in Panama for like an Uber, that's a pretty decent sized ride.
On the right is the White Tower. Now, this is a very well-known building in Panama City. And many of the buildings, when you're looking on a map or labeling, it's called PH White Tower. And I thought, does that mean penthouse?
That's
what does that PH stand for?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But it isn't. It's actually Propiedad Horizontal. And why horizontal when it's a high rise and it's a tall building? Well, horizontal, but basically meaning there's multiple owners in the building. There are rentals in the White Tower from about 1,300 to 2,300 currently, and we are talking May 2025. And the sales around $255 for a 2-bed, 2-bath unit, about 1,300 square feet. And I saw even some going up to $489,000 for a 3-3. There are a couple of buildings behind the White Tower going up the street, but we'll tell you about those when we get to it. Now, this is the corner of Calle 41.
This is a magnificent building. Panama Relocation Tours, Jackie Lang, did an interview of a couple that moved to Panama, and they were renting and then ultimately bought in this building. I recall they had
It's called Sky Residence,
that
PH Sky.
Yeah, as I recall, they had a 2 or a 3 bedroom, but it was big, and the view was astounding. It was a really pretty one, but it comes at a cost, and that cost is, survey says.
Well, I'm seeing from $390,000 to $440,000 for a 3-bed, 3-bath.
Rentals?
And of course, that's the no, $440,000 to rent.
No.
Don't think I have a rental on that one.
Yeah, I think roughly they're going to be in the 22, 24, $2,500 range, maybe even 28 to 3,000. It wasn't a cheap building.
We are turning now on Calle 40, and on the left is the Yacht Club building.
Another really nice one.
Well, it clearly looks right across all the lanes of traffic through the waterfront to the actual Yacht Club. So there's a great view of the Yacht Club from this building. So there are a couple of listings of sales in the Yacht Club, and I see a 1-1 starting at $300,000 up to $500,000 for a 2-2, and I believe they go much higher than that. If we were to keep going straight on Avenida Balboa, we would come to Hospital Santo Tomas, and there was a new children's hospital under construction as well, which may or may not be finished now, I'm not sure. Also, there are a bunch of high-rises along the waterfront, but I found them to be quite spread apart.
And some of them are older also. They're not, essentially, this is probably not the correct word, it sounds too strong, but the farther you get away from the park, the more they sort of deteriorate the area itself.
Also, if we had gone to the next corner to Calle 39, we'd see La Ensenada building. And that particular one has rents of about $22.55 a month for a 2,000 square foot apartment.
Nice.
There's also PH Destiny, which is $3,100 for a 3-3, or $325,000 to buy a 2-2. Another one is Element Tower, which has sales at about $275 for a 2-2.
all of Caledonia is definitely in a flux of being, I don't know, gentrified, would you say? Or definitely, older stuff is being taken down. And, they're probably two-story type things or just plain houses or older little apartment buildings or little office buildings, and these big monster condos are going up. And they're great. They're spectacular when the new ones come up. But you want to be up on this end by Parque Urraca. As you probably noticed on this street, as is a lot of these back streets behind once you get off Avenida Balboa, there's a huge amount of construction going on as these neighborhoods turn over and become newer and bigger and more high rises and all that sort of stuff. We're going to show you a grocery store at the end here. It's one of the big Rays, one of the major chains that are in Panama City. Actually, throughout all of Panama, for that matter.
We have video inside to show you what it looks like.
We do, yeah. It's old video, it's like from, 3 or 4 years ago, but yeah. A grocery store is a grocery store. They all look the same. Except the prices will be different, that's for sure.
Yeah, aren't the prices high everywhere?
As you're seeing this, hopefully you kind of get a feel for why, if you're coming to Panama City for the very first time, this is a fine area, it's safe, there's nothing wrong with it. On your first shot here, you kind of don't want to be back in this area. You want to be staying over on the other side of the park.
Well, at least for now, but this area is definitely being gentrified. You can see by all the construction that there are new buildings going in. I'm sure they're going to fix the sidewalks once that construction is done.
Absolutely.
And you know that there's major supermarket right here, and on the waterfront there are some pretty hot buildings that are very popular already. So this is going to definitely get better and better as the months and a few years go on.
Yeah, it would be a safe investment if you want to look ahead 6, 7, 8 years, 100%. Do you remember what this building was right here? This was a cool looking building. I didn't know if it was a hotel or is it a condo. Do you know what it is? This Novo place?
Yes, I do. On the right, first is the Aquazul building. And I saw rents in there from $11.50. But this Nuevo, I believe it's an Armani design building. There are quite a few ads for places for sale and for rent in here. I saw $315 for a 2-bed, 3-bath, and I saw $2,500 a month for the same size unit. Then there was another one, or several others, and they run sort of between $315,000 and $355,000.
So basically, you're going to get a decent place under $400,000.
Yeah, and next to it is the Marine Terrace, where I saw $2,200 a month rent, and that was for a 3.5. And the sales ran between $300,000 and $389,000 for a 3-bed, 3-bath.
This thing on the left here is a bunch of restaurants in here. We ate in there 4 or 5 years ago. We went in and had a drink, and then you ended up getting a snack or something because it was sort of around lunchtime.
Yeah, it's an interesting collection of little eateries. P.H. Brocamar is at the corner here. In the range of 260 to 400,000, you can get a 2 to a 4 bedroom apartment in this building, and the rents are a bit high at around $2,500. And on the right, you see the back of Iberia. On the left, you'll see us coming to this little shopping plaza. So there's a Metro Plus in here, which we went to. It's a very nice, clean little shop, basically a small version with lots of little takeout foods that you could pick up, which we did. We picked up a little lunch and then we took it to the park.
I love that building right there. It's really older and it needs some touch-up love, but that building right there that you're staring at, it's a really cool older building. I can only imagine what they're like inside, especially if they got really spiffed up.
Right, so we're back at Calle 43. The Colores building is there. The Bellevue Tower is behind it.
And we're pretty much right on the park. So again, that's why everything starts to look a little bit nicer, because the closer you are to the park, the better everything is. It's just that simple.
So let's give everyone the pros and cons of living in this area. First, it's a central location. There's easy access to downtown, good public transportation with a metro running through the top end of Caledonia.
Yeah, like, at worst, a 10-minute walk to get to the metro.
And major roads.
Yeah, and it's pretty affordable compared to many of the other upscale neighborhoods.
When you go further up into the streets, you will see much more affordable rentals, particularly in some of the older low-rise buildings. There's a vibrant local culture, and there's a lot of food shopping options and markets in the area. And you get a real Panama experience in there. It really is a very local feel.
Yeah, this sort of reminds me of if you visit Casco Viejo, where they've redone it. It's super spiffy. In many ways, it's almost like a movie set from 400 years ago. And then you sort of get, if you're facing Casco Viejo, if you start to keep walking toward the right, it starts to become more and more older, sketchy looking, whatever. That's where some of this area in Caledonia also looks like. Local flavor, you could make it that way. It depends on what words you want to use to actually describe it well.
But many people have reported that they don't feel safe in this area, particularly at night.
I could see, especially if you're not used to it. The more you stay in an area, the more, I can remember being, in a lot of different U.S. cities and Canadian cities where, wow, this is kind of a crappy area. Until you realize that it's actually not, and everything is fine.
Some of these areas can be very busy and noisy, especially around the main street, which is Avenida Central. Another thing to note is there's really not any large green spaces and big parks like other areas of Panama City. Lastly, it really is more commercial feeling than residential in some parts. So We had noticed that when they closed the shutters on some of the shops and stores, you see a lot of graffiti.
Huge amount of graffiti,
It's not as clean looking as some of the other areas. And so the area that we walked through and showed you really was what we thought was the most suitable for expats at this time. But as we said, it's developing, being gentrified, growing, and I'm sure that area that we're in will start to spread into Caledonia.
Yeah.
We sure hope that all this information is helpful to you. We don't want to waste your precious time because we all know there's never enough time for anything. Please be sure to subscribe and come back to see us again soon. Bye for now.